What's up guys, welcome to my channel, and today I'm doing an ultimate survival guide on how to ace your finals. I'm going to be sharing some effective ways to study, approve my me, the nerd. And I've been using these tips for I'm 13, so half of my lifetime, so they've worked like a magic potion. So if you are truly dedicated and determined, and if you use these tips, you will ace your finals. Let's do this. Managing your time is super important when trying to ace your finals. I'm not saying as if you don't know that, but it's just really important. Maybe using a calendar or a planner, or my personal favorite is the to-do list. I like to write today I will study chapter 1, 2, 3, tick cross. I really like using a to-do list because I get really guilty. The to-do list is just you haven't finished it, and I'm like, I'll do it later. I really feel guilty when I don't complete my task, so I definitely recommend using a to-do list. Oh, and another thing, you gotta start early when you want to ace your finals. You cannot be cramming at the last day. I, as a nerd, like to start 2 months earlier. 2 months, yes. I like to start 2 months, get everything in my brain, the whole textbook in my brain. So I like to start 2 months earlier. And one thing, you cannot be taking those pretty notes with those flowery, perfect bullet points, perfectly rainbow highlighted notes when you have only 2 hours left to study. You gotta read the whole thing. You gotta know how to manage your time. If you take those pretty notes when you have only 2 hours left, it's like you're going on a dead mission. Definitely don't recommend taking those pretty notes if you have only 2 hours to study, unless you have super flash. When you're studying, the worst thing that you can do is procrastinate. It's fun when it lasts, but when you're done with procrastinating, you stress out your brain. It's so stressful, guys. I'm talking from my experience. Don't procrastinate, whether it be checking on your social media or maybe watching YouTube videos. You can do that later, but studying, you have to do it before your finals. The bell rings. Learning how to prioritize is super important when it comes to final. Let's say this subject, you're pretty good at it, but this one not really good, then you should do the harder one first. You can do that one later, but some people are kind of different. Some people like to do the easier stuff first so that it'll be out of the way. But yeah, you can do the easier or harder one first, whichever one you like. Now on to the study tips and techniques, and that is the field I expertise. I'm really good. I could ramble on and on for hours about study tips, but you guys will hate me if I do that, so let's just get to the point. The first thing I really like doing is chapter summaries and review questions. Especially when you're cramming, they are your best friend. Some people ignore this, but this should not be ignored. It's basically a general summary of the whole chapter. So if you're cramming, you can just read over it and get the general idea. With the rest, you can just wing it. Review questions must too, because usually teachers are human too, and they sometimes would run out of ideas for questions, probably, and that's when review questions come in. Teachers often use review questions, so definitely do them. Those are your friends. Do them. Practice. And sticky notes and post-it notes. Not gonna lie, I'm sticky notes obsessed. My whole textbook is filled with sticky notes. I like to write the summary of a page. This page, I like to write and summarize it on a little small sticky note. I just transfer a big chunk of information onto a small piece of sticky note, and when finals are coming over, I can just read the sticky notes instead of reading every single detailed information. And acronyms are addicting and really amazing. In science, we have to learn the periodic table, and it was a pain in the butt. But the acronyms, like, they changed my life. The whole class, like my whole grade, used the acronym, and everybody's like chanting like, it was really addicting. It was almost like a little poem and like a nursery school rhymey thing. Like every single person in our grade uses that acronym, and we aced it. And also cheat sheet. No, it's not like a cheat sheet. It's like cheat sheet. It's just like a piece of paper, but like the terms or definitions or stuff that you don't understand, like you don't really get it. Like 5 minutes before the exam, you can just whip it out and read everything over it and be okay, be fine. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of flashcards because they're too time consuming to make, and I'm way too lazy to physically write down every single thing. I'm just lazy, guys. Nerds can be lazy too. So what I prefer to do is I use Quizlet. It's really nice. You can just type everything, quiz yourself, especially English. The English vocab, it was so hard, but I kind of aced it. Yeah, I think I did pretty fine. No, this is not some kind of sponsor or anything. I just use Quizlet, so I'm just saying it. And another thing is ask for past paper questions. Like maybe your school gives past paper questions, my school doesn't. So what I do is I either ask my teachers. If they're nice, they will tell you. And if maybe you're too scared or you're not confident to ask your teacher, what I do is I ask like my seniors, like, hey, I'm from this grade last year. What did they ask? Which questions do I really need to remember? And if you have like friends that are seniors, they will really help you. Like, go friends, go! Thank you, friends and seniors. And another tip, it comes from my teacher. He said that imagine yourself if you were a teacher. What would you ask your students? And you know, just write out some questions and you can review them. And lastly, I want to tell you guys that on the day of the exam, rest well, eat well, make sure you have enough sleep, don't stress too much, don't be late to your exam because that would stress you out. I wish you guys the best of luck. These are like my very all-time favorite tips, like my favorite. All the tips are going from my brain and transferring to your brain. I'm pretty weird, so I really love you guys who made it to this far, although I'm not really sure who will make it this far. Anyways, I love you guys, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!